Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Books and Backbone podcast. My name is Donna Harris, CEO of the Bookkeeping Made Simple, your host. And today I want to talk about a term that gets thrown around a lot in the small business world, including previously by me. And that term is financial literacy. So you've probably heard, or maybe you've nodded along when someone mentioned it. Maybe you've quietly wondered whether you had it, and maybe you've watched Caleb Hammer's podcast and wondered about some of those folks. I just finished watching an episode myself. Maybe you've been a little bit afraid to find out. Here's what I want to tell you before you go any further on, oh gosh, everything like pops up on my computer. Okay. Financial literacy is not what people think it is. It's not knowing how to do accounting. It is not understanding every line of the balance sheet. It's not being able to prepare your own tax return or build a financial model from scratch. It is not being a finance guru. It is not understanding all of the ins and outs of Bitcoin and blockchain, et cetera, et cetera. That's not what it is. Financial literacy for a small business owner is something much more specific, and it's much more achievable than that. It's the ability to read your own numbers and act on what they tell you. That's it. That's the whole definition. And today I want to tell you that what that actually looks like in practice, what you gain when you have it and what it costs when you don't. So let's talk about what financial literacy is not. Let's clear away the misconceptions first, because honestly, I think this is the main reason business owners don't pursue this. Financial literacy does not mean you do your own bookkeeping. I am a bookkeeper and an accountant. I still don't do my own bookkeeping because objectivity matters. And because the person that's closest to the work is almost never the person that's best to review it. Financial literacy does not mean you understand every accounting standard, every tax code, every depreciation schedule. That's what I'm for. That's what your CPA is for. That's what Caleb Hammer is for. You don't need to know how the engine works to run the car, or to drive the car, I should say. Financial literacy does not mean you went to business school, got an MBA, took an accounting course. I've already done all that. Some of the most financially literate business owners I've worked with have never even finished college. In fact, one of the business owners that I really look up to and admire, not only did he not finish college, he spent 2 stints in jail or in prison in Texas. So going to school doesn't matter for this. Okay? You can be financially literate, you can be brilliant financially and never finish college. And you could have a graduate degree in finance and accounting and still not be financially literate. It has nothing to do with credentials. It has, and by the way, I am against credentialism. I went to school when I was 50 to finish my degrees, not because I felt like I needed the knowledge, because a lot of this was, some of it was new information, a lot of it was actually, but it was because I wanted to have the information I needed to serve my clients. And because I was already working in the field and had for many years, I knew what I needed. So that was why I went back and I got my bachelor's, I got 2 master's degrees. But I'm against credentialism. What I want to know is if you know how to do things. Anyway, financial literacy has nothing to do with credentials. It has everything to do with whether or not you're willing to pull your head out of the sand, look at your numbers, and actually engage with what they're telling you. So this is what financial literacy is. This is what it looks like in a small business owner. It means knowing your gross margin. Not necessarily from memory. You might not think about it, but you know what it is, know what it means, and know whether it's moving in the right direction. It's like being able to open your P&L, your profit and loss statement. Some people call it an income statement. So if you hear it that, it's profit and loss and income as statements of the same thing. You should be able to read it. You audit it. You don't have to reconstruct it. You just have to be able to read it and understand which numbers are telling you something good, which ones are telling you something concerning, and which ones you want to ask your accountant about. It looks like knowing your cash position and your 30-day outlook. Not just the bank balance. The bank balance is a snapshot of what's there right now, but the picture of what's coming in and what's going out, and whether the last 4 weeks have any pressure points. Is rent coming due? Is payroll coming due? Do you have an annual fee that's going to be coming up? Those are the kind of things we mean by pressure points. Do you have enough money to pay all of your bills comfortably? And if you don't, do you have a way to get the money? You're in business. You should have a way to sell more products or services. It looks like being able to answer without calling anyone whether your business was more or less profitable last quarter than the quarter before, and having a sense of why. It looks like walking into a conversation with a banker or a buyer or a partner and being able to talk about your financials with confidence, not performing expertise you don't have. Communicating clearly about a business you actually understand. That's what financially literate business owners look like. And not one of these things, by the way, requires a degree, whether business or accounting or any other kind. I want to be honest about the other side of this. What does it look like not to be financially literate? Because I think naming it clearly is more useful than tiptoeing around it. A business owner without financial literacy makes decisions in the dark. It's not because they're careless. It is because they don't have the tools to make them in the light. They hire when it feels right rather than when the margins support it. They sign leases because the monthly number looks manageable rather than because they've modeled it. They've modeled what it does to their break even. They set prices based on what the market seems to charge rather than what they actually need to charge to make money. Don't ever compete on price, by the way. You'll be hammered. They get surprised by tax bills that their books could have predicted. They discover cash flow problems at the moment of crisis rather than 3 months before. They find out at the exit conversation when a buyer's accountant is going through the records that the business they thought they built isn't the one the numbers reflect. These are not small costs. These are the accumulated costs of running a business without being able to read it. And the hardest part, the thing I want to say carefully, because I mean it with genuine empathy, is that most of the business owners I've worked with who were in this situation were not unintelligent. They were not irresponsible. They were running as fast as they could, doing the best that they could with the tools that they had. They just didn't have this tool. I want to tell you about the moment financial literacy actually arrives, because it doesn't come from reading a book or taking a course or even getting a degree. It comes from a conversation. In my experience, it almost always happens this way. A business owner sits down with someone, a bookkeeper, an accountant, an advisor, an attorney, a CFO, who goes through the financial reports with them in plain English. Not just handing them a PDF and hoping they know how to read it, but sitting down with them and explaining what each number means, what it's telling them, and what to do about it. And then something shifts. The numbers stop being like a foreign language. And I was just thinking earlier about Russian. The Russian language is written in Cyrillic. I can't read Cyrillic. I can read English, German, Spanish, French, some Italian. I can read them. I can converse in Spanish and German, but it has to be that Latin, the English, basically the alphabet that I'm used to. Russian has different letters. It doesn't even look like English. So I can't read Russian. And I've thought about how horrible it must be to live in a country where you can't read. And I thought about this because, well, a lot of reasons. A lot of them are political that I'm not going to get into. But what would it be like to not read? Well, it's the same thing here. When your eyes glaze over as you're looking at those columns of numbers and you're not thinking about what does this mean? Or what is this trying to tell me? Because they're always telling a story. Your numbers are always going to tell a story. whether it's a good story or a bad story, or a bad start with a happy ending, or a happy story with a bad ending. That's all up to you. But your numbers tell a story. And we want you to understand your financials. The people who've been avoiding financials for 2 years and then discovered when they finally looked that the situation was manageable, and not looking had been the most expensive decision they made. That's what financial literacy looks like. It looks like not being embarrassed to go over your numbers. It looks like looking at your numbers, understanding what they're telling you, being able to read the story over time, and figuring out what your situation is for real. And if you like it, if you don't like it, as a business owner, you can change it. If you're a W-2 employee, well, congratulations, you're making the most expensive money you can ever make. But as a business owner, you can change what those numbers say. I'm not talking about cooking the books. I'm talking about you do that 30-day, 13-week cash flow forecast, and you as a business owner can decide, well, I don't have enough revenue. I can start making changes. And in fact, I've done this in my own business. Financial literacy is the ability to look at your books and look at your reports, read them, understand them, and understand the story that they're telling you, and then deciding how you want that story to end. Okay? You can choose your ending. So let me be specific. What changes when you are financially literate? Because I think the abstract version of this isn't as compelling as the concrete one. You stop hiring on hope and you start hiring on data. The question changes from, do we feel busy enough to bring someone on, to do the margins support his salary, and what does it do to our break even? You stop setting your prices based on what competitors charge and start setting them based on what you need to charge to actually make money. Those are often very different numbers. You stop dreading tax season and start planning for it because you've been looking at your numbers quarterly. The April filing is a confirmation, not a reckoning. You start having a different kind of conversation with your banker. Not, here's my revenue, can I have a loan? But here's my gross margin, here's my cash flow projection, here's my debt service coverage ratio. Here's why this loan makes sense for my business. You're going to get a very different outcome. You start thinking about your business differently, not as the thing you do every day, but your business becomes an asset, something of value, with a value, a trajectory, and a future that can be shaped by the decisions you make now. Remember, I said your numbers tell a story. You get to pick the ending. That last one is the biggest shift. And it's the one that separates business owners who are running something from business owners who are building something. Well, how do you build financial literacy? Well, there's 3 things: simple, specific, and doable. First, ask for the explanation, not just the report. When you receive your monthly financials, ask your bookkeeper or accountant to walk you through them. Not a lecture, just 5 minutes on the phone or on a call. My favorite is to do this over Zoom so I can throw the reports up on the screen. I can record it for the client. We now do these over Loom. The client gets the Loom video. They can see this all in real time. Someone needs to explain to you what your numbers are saying this month. Do this consistently for 6 months and watch what happens to your comfort level with your own financials. You're going to get really good at it. Second, learn 5 numbers and check them monthly. Revenue trend, gross margin, cash position, and 30-day outlook, accounts receivable aging, and owner compensation relative to market rate. I did a full episode on these last week. Go back and listen to it if you haven't. These 5 numbers give you a complete picture of your business's financial health without requiring you to understand the entire accounting system. By the way, I think no business owner should ever do their own books, and no business owner should have a friend do the book. I'll explain why in a different video. But third, have the quarterly review conversation. I have not spoken to any other accounting firm that does this. Most accountants want you to come in once a year to do for you to do your taxes, and then they want you to leave. Have the quarterly review conversation 4 times a year. Sit down with someone who knows your books and ask, what are my numbers telling me right now? What should I be paying attention to? What decisions are coming up that I need financial visibility to make well? That conversation 4 times a year, which comes with being a Bookkeeping Made Simple client, is the engine of financial literacy for a small business owner. Again, none of these require an accounting degree. They require a willingness to engage. Financial literacy is not about knowing more, it's about looking more. Looking at the numbers regularly, asking what they mean, acting on what they tell you. The business owners I work with who have developed this have gone from avoiding their financials to actually using them. They consistently tell me the same thing, not that I made them feel smarter, I made them feel free. Free to make decisions with confidence, free to have conversations with buyers and bankers and partners without anxiety, free to run their business instead of being run by it. That freedom starts with one conversation. If you're ready to have it, I'm here. 20 minutes, free, no pitch, one-time offer. You can find me at mysimplebookkeeping.com, and if you would like to book an appointment, you can go to mysimplebookkeeping.com/contact, and we'll be delighted you can get on our calendar, and we'd be delighted to chat with you. I'm Donna Harris. This is Books and Backbone. Look at your numbers. They're trying to tell you something. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the red notification bell so you are notified when new videos hit. Thank you for watching.